Hello and welcome to Positive Conversations with David and Donna. I'm Donna.
I'm David.
And we have something to talk about that I'm sure a lot of people have talked about and will continue to talk about for a while. But last week we finished our 2 podcasts and I picked up my phone and had a text from my daughter that said, "Mom, Kobe Bryant just died." And we just went running out of the room going, "What are you talking about?" And that's when we heard the horrible news about the plane wreck that claimed 9 different lives. Of course, including Kobe and his daughter and several other family members. It was not his family members, but people who were family.
Yeah.
It was just so overwhelming and sad, and any death is sad, but so many people knew Kobe, and he was so inspiring in so many ways. And even as a person who knows nothing about NBA and doesn't ever watch basketball, I knew that name. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that name. So while David and I talked over this week, one of the things he said to me was it had really affected him a lot. So I would like him to talk about that and what he's done since then. Just when you found out about the death.
Well, when I found out about it, a lot of times when you find out about a celebrity who has died, and it's happened very, very frequently, it's truthfully, and I don't mean to be insensitive, and this is all tragic, very much so, but it's like, oh, well, they took an obnoxious amount of drugs and overdosed. Okay, that's sad. Or a lot of times there are things like, oh, someone died. Well, I'm not going to say names, but it's like, oh, well, turns out he was actually not that great of a person. Yeah, and I'm still not okay that somebody died. It's always a sad thing. I think all life is valuable, but when somebody like Kobe Bryant passes away, it's very heartbreaking because you look at it and realize that there is absolutely nothing that he did to deserve that, and it was just a complete accident. And the only thing he did to put himself in that position was get in a helicopter. Mm-hmm. He didn't, he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just, no one did. And it's just a very tragic accident. So that really affects me. It's like, wow, that's horrible. And he was very young. I mean, we think of him as old because, retired basketball player. But then you put it in perspective that, basketball players don't play basketball until they're 60. He was only, 42?
I don't remember.
Something like that. Like, I think early 40s. Like, that's really young. That's younger than you. That sounds, I didn't mean it. You know what I mean.
I do.
You know what I mean. That you, and then his daughter, who, was also obviously extremely young.
She was 13.
She was 13 with an insane basketball talent, and she passed away, and it's just all tragic. And there's nothing, the reason it affected me, I think, is because you look at it and it's like, oh wow. There's nothing I can say to make myself feel better about it,
No,
not at all.
Not.
And also just the way that he affected so many people. I've been watching a lot of interviews of people reacting to it, and Shaquille O'Neal had a very emotional one. Did you see that?
I did. I watched it this morning. And he was so emotional about other things as well. He looked like he was in a really bad spot.
And it put a lot of things in perspective. That's what it does. Everybody says hey, hug your family today. That's the big thing. Shaq talks about, he looks at his friends who are there with him at that interview. He's like, I don't talk to y'all enough. Mm-hmm. He hadn't talked to Kobe Bryant in person since 2016. And it's just very heartbreaking like that. 41 years old Kobe Bryant was. Donna just looked it up for me. Wow. So that's why it's affected me a lot. But this is a positive conversation. So really what we want to talk about is all the positive things that Kobe did in his life with the relatively short amount of time that he had.
I agree. A lot of people view death as something that's so horrible, and it is very painful to have to lose a presence that you are used to. And it's not like I'm trying to say that we should just have a party when somebody dies, but there are cultures who actually do that, who celebrate the life the person lived instead of letting the focus of their ending be the fact that they're gone. Just instead celebrate the fact that they were here and all that they contributed while they were. And I feel like, not that I would have ever wished an early death on him, but because he did die early, it lets us kind of look at, wow, this particular effect that he's having would not have happened this way if he had continued to live. So to try to find anything positive in a completely unnecessary death because it was just an accident, what we can do is realize how much his way of thinking is now being spread around to way more people. He did a good job in his lifetime of spreading his positivity. He liked to help young people and talk to schools, and he has this way of thinking that we're going to talk about that is really a good philosophy. But I think a whole lot more people right now are thinking about that and learning about it. And so if there is any way to find anything positive about it, I would think that would be it. But this is what he liked to talk about. He talked about his Mamba mentality. And I watched the way they honored him at the beginning of a Lakers game. Did you see that part where they played the music and they had the different people talking and whatever? And they talked about his Mamba mentality. They had a black jersey on a seat that said Mamba. But he said Mamba mentality is all about focusing on the process and trusting in the hard work when it matters most. It's the ultimate mantra for the competitive spirit. Everything worth achieving needs total focus and dedication. Hard work outweighs talent every time. Mamba mentality is about 4 a.m. workouts, doing more than the next guy, and then trusting in the work you've put in when it's time to perform. Without studying, preparation, and practice, you're leaving the outcome to fate. I don't do fate. So that is just how he lived his whole life. And again, knowing very little about him, but just I've watched some videos about him today, and I can see from like what David said, the huge reaction and outpouring of love and support for his family that's left behind. He was just a phenomenal person. And I think that his way of looking at it was, I want to be the best at basketball. That's what he decided. And he chose in his mind that that's what he was going to do. And he said that the world became his library, so that his ultimate focus was, I'm going to be the best basketball player I can be. And not just best basketball player I can be, but one of the best that's ever played. And he put his entire heart and soul into it. He did what he said, the 4 a.m. workouts, the working through the pain, the working overtime, doing way more than other people did. But in his way of looking at it, he could not get where he wanted to be without that mentality. And so one of the things that I was trying to find before the podcast was a quote that I heard him say in an interview. He said, I danced in my box the best I could, and my box was basketball. Everybody has their own box, so you should dance as beautifully as you can in your box. Like, choose what you want to do, focus on it, work hard on it, and then you can achieve anything you want to achieve. So those are some of the thoughts I had. Did you want to comment on any of that?
The first thing that comes to mind for me when commenting on that is that it's obviously something he taught to his children a lot. And so we could talk about Gigi. Her name was Gianna, but they called her Gigi. She was also a basketball player, and it's obvious that she was following that same mentality that he instilled in her. And I'm sure many other students who looked up to him, I guarantee you there are many, many people who like specifically base their life around that because Kobe Bryant said it. Because I have certain things where like big things in my life where I think about that often. Like different people that were inspirational to me. So I'm sure for a lot of people that was Kobe Bryant. And his daughter, like I said, was a very talented basketball player as well, and was always doing the same thing. There's a video I saw of her where she went to a dance, and right after the dance, she went to the basketball court in her high heels and dress still, and was shooting free throws. Just that's because that's what she wanted to do. And so what that says to me, and something I learned myself recently enough, is just do what you want to do, no matter what time it is, regardless of what it is. If you want to do it, you can go do it because you're your own person. And, you know, there's the, like, oh, we live in a simulation. But the truth is, like, we don't live, you have free will. You're not controlled. Like, he doesn't do fate. You can do whatever. And so she went, because she wanted to play basketball. Yeah, she's wearing high heels, but she went and played basketball because she wanted to at that time. Kobe Bryant wanted to be the best basketball player that ever lived. So he did. He worked towards that. He wanted to get up at 4 a.m. and go work out to do that. So he did. And theoretically, nothing is ever stopping you. The only things in your way are paths that you put there yourself. Are things that you put there yourself. Obstacles. That's the word I was looking for. Obstacles you put there yourself. It's all an illusion. There's always a way to do something if you want to do it. And what I would take away from that is live how you want to live and do what you want to do, and don't let people like stop you or make you feel obligated to do something else. Just what I think about with that is for a very long time I was not myself. I say that a lot. I feel like I wasn't myself for like the year basically right after I graduated high school up until we started this business. I was very much not myself at all. Like I look back and don't even recognize it. And I realized it's just because I simply didn't do what I wanted to do. Not once. Not a single step that I took was me going, I want to do this today. I want to do this today. I was always following somebody else. I was always under the control of something else. And it's not, no time is wasted, but you could say that that was a waste of time in my life that I could have been putting towards better things. But I still learned lessons from it, of course. But now I've learned, and it's obviously something I think Kobe Bryant would very much say, is just live how you want to live and do what you want to do and go forward in whatever way you want to go forward.
I think it's interesting that you said the thing about not being in control, because I've watched some videos about interviews, of course, after he retired, and he was talking about how when he was playing basketball, he was in control of the game. Mm-hmm. He did him, and he was in charge of every aspect of everything he did. But then when he retired, he wanted to do other things. Did you know that he won an Oscar?
Yes, I did, for a short film that he made.
So that's
which
just
is incredible.
Phenomenal. So did you watch the short film?
I did not watch the short film.
Oh, it's called Dear Basketball, and so
You know what? I think I have seen it before though.
So it starts off with a young boy rolling up his dad's tube socks and using them to throw them into a wastebasket and act like he's winning the game in the last 5 seconds, and then falling back on the bed, and just the joy of the idea of all of that. And he told basketball, I am in love with you. I will give you all that I have. And it just follows this young boy and going through all of that he had to do to pay tribute to the love he had for this game. And he said, you've taught me so much and you've done so much for me. And by the end of the little short video, he's telling basketball, I've given you everything I have. My mind and my spirit want to continue, but I know my body can't go much longer. And I was literally weeping by the time we got to the end, because the music in the background is beautiful, and just the first sequence is really moving, and I was kind of getting that lump in my throat. But then as it went by and you watch the journey of this tiny little boy turn into the phenomenal player, and then at the end the little boy is drawn in the same frames as Kobe, and so it's both of them dribbling down the court, both of them going in for the shot, both of them doing all the things that made him such a phenomenal player. But the very last scene is him falling back into bed again as the little boy. I'm getting chills talking about it. And I mean, I just squalled because it would have been moving anyway, but knowing that he gave his whole everything to this game, and then the way he died was so unexpected, but he still did everything he set out to do. And then beyond basketball, went on to show there's more to me, and he found a new dream, and he got the dream, he got an Oscar, and he, it's so sad to think what else he would have achieved, but he still did so much with the life that he had. I don't think that you would look at a person that had regrets, because he did say in another interview that relationships might have suffered, because if you have to put your entire mind, body, and soul into I'm going to be the best basketball player there is, that does take time away from your family or your friends. You just have to make the best of that time when you do have it together. So that might be.
I feel like I could tell that he always did his best, and that's in everything that he did. That includes being a father and being a husband. I think I read that him and his wife Vanessa had been together since he was 18 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't read anything like that, but that what a tribute,
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course he was already a star basketball player, but he wasn't in high school. But he wasn't in college yet. And he met her, and they stuck together. He could have had any woman that he wanted.
And easily so.
I've said it I've seen something that many people say. I think it's actually a quote from Barack Obama. I could 100% be wrong. But this is what I think I read. Whenever you have everything, be with the person who was with you when you had nothing. Something like that.
Right.
But he obviously put his best into everything that he could. And it's really interesting. I went to his Twitter soon after he died, just because I just wanted to read some of his tweets. I was kind of curious. And the first thing in his bio was it said like Black Mamba, period, writer, producer, director, period. And then it was like former basketball player. So like the first thing that before he had basketball player, it was writer, director, producer, because that's what he wanted to be at that time.
Right?
And he wasn't just he had I think it was called Mamba Academy. That's what they were on their way to. Actually, when the helicopter crashed, they were on their way to the academy. That's what they were with his daughter, and then actually other students and the students' parents on their way to a basketball practice. He ran that for kids, so that's part of being a producer. Was he produced that for people, and he always wanted to be whatever he wanted to be at the time. He was, and that's a lesson that we've multiple guests on the show on our creative conversations have said. You don't want to be a writer. You are a writer.
Yeah.
You want to be an author, a published author, but you're a writer. If you want to be a writer, you're a writer. If you want to be a basketball player, you're a basketball player. Maybe not a professional one yet, but you're a basketball player. Be what you want to be and work towards being the next step in that. But you are whatever it is you want to be if you tell yourself that you are. And that's the first step into becoming. The first step you had to take was like, I am going to be a basketball player. Well, I'm going to be a professional basketball player. And then
I'm going to be the best basketball player.
Basketball player.
Right.
Exactly. And he was always what he wanted to be and did what he wanted to do. And I definitely know that I'm going to think about that for many, many times. It's going to come up of what should I do? I'm going to do what it is that I want to do. What is it I want to do today? Because nobody controls you. And like he said, he doesn't wait for fate. And no, it's interesting. He didn't say, I don't believe in fate. What did he say? He
said, I don't do fate.
I don't do fate. He didn't say he doesn't believe in fate. But he said, like, it might, but I don't do that. That's not what I do. I just do whatever it is I want to do.
Right. And I have another tie-in for me personally. I'm sure many athletes have said it, but I'm a huge Joe Barrow fan, if y'all don't know that. And so, of course, they have all these different videos and quotes from people, but this is what Joe Barrow said. He says, some of my fondest memories of sports growing up were watching Kobe take over games with my dad. Modeled my mentality after him. Thanks for that, Kobe. So if you've ever heard me talk about Joe Barrow's work ethic and how he, in his mind, just kept telling people, I know I can do this. And there were people who doubted him, and he had seasons that weren't terrific or games that weren't perfect or whatever. But in his head, he's like, I know I can do this. And I've watched interviews with him where he said things like, I told you. I mean, I said it. And I think it's so interesting because it's almost like, why didn't you believe me? I mean, I told you I was going to do this.
Yeah.
Because in his mind, there was no doubt. And because there was no doubt, look at what he's achieved. I mean, even after the national championship, he's still winning awards. I mean, it's phenomenal to see what a person can do when they set their mind to it and don't accept excuses and work solely toward that goal. It becomes a thing. Thoughts become things, but you certainly have to work at them, you know?
Yeah, but in his case, it was like he did everything he could possibly do to get to that place, and he knew it always seemed, and who knows what was going on behind the scenes, but it always seemed that he was always very clear-minded.
And I feel like that he gets that idea from Kobe.
Yeah.
To set your sights, and the world is your library. That's what he said. Like,
right.
You learn from anything that you can find to help you be the best of whatever you're trying to be.
Well, I was saying Kobe was like that.
Oh, okay. And I think Joe too.
But yeah, probably Joe too. You're probably right. Joe, from what you've seen, Joe's very clear-minded of like, oh yeah, we were going to win the national champion. Yeah. So I think Kobe was very much like, and that's something I've learned too, is that the most important thing before you can do anything else is to have a clear head. If you can just calm down and have a clear mind, then you can figure out what step to take next. Literally, what physical step. Which direction are you going to walk? Are you going to walk to your car so you can go to basketball practice? Yeah. Are you going to walk over to your bed to get some sleep? Are you going to walk to the free? Like, what? Just have a clear mind.
Right.
And just calm down and be confident in knowing things. Even fake it till you make it is something it's like, even if truly, maybe on the inside you're like, oh man, I don't know, but if you have the confidence, if you just fake the confidence and say like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna hit that free throw. Eventually, you're gonna hit that free throw. And he always followed that mindset, and obviously touched so many people. I mean, every basketball player who's alive today will say that Kobe is a huge inspiration. Funny, I knew Kobe because I would throw, this is something that so many people said, you throw something into a trash can, and you said, Kobe. This is something that everybody does. I have a funny story. I was once, and I know it's about to our time, but this is a random story. I was once, and it was in 3rd grade, and I had to throw something away, and I walked up to the trash can, and there were these boys that were already there, and they were kind of playing around, and they were tossing things in the trash can, going, Kobe, Kobe, and the teacher was like, hey, stop throwing things in the trash can, just put it in the trash can, and I just happened to walk up, and she looked at me, and she's like, got it? And I'm like, oh, yes, ma'am, and I tossed it in the trash can. I just tossed it, and I went, Kobe. And I got in trouble. I got what was called a mark because I went Kobe. But it's just because the reason I said Kobe, I didn't throw it, but I said Kobe and got in trouble because it was just so ingrained in my brain that when I throw it in there to go Kobe, it's so ingrained in your brain that when you do something right, you say his name. Like, and that's such a weird thing when you think about it. You know what I mean?
Specifically throwing something in a basket.
Right, but I've also seen people be like, oh man, whenever they succeed at something, they succeeded at something and they went Kobe. Like, that's a weird thing when you think about it.
I've never known that at all.
So you didn't know people do that?
That's a you thing.
That is an extremely popular thing. People go like, Kobe.
Well, I mean, it's extremely popular to you. I mean, I'm 54.
Oh, right. 55 next week, I figure maybe like in your classroom.
Yes, I don't remember ever seeing that in my classroom.
But that's a thing that a lot of kids did. And it's really interesting that, like, when you succeed at something, you didn't go LeBron.
Well, maybe that'll become a thing.
Yeah, you went Kobe.
Well, we would like to end the podcast by just saying we have the utmost respect for Kobe Bryant and all that he ever achieved and stood for, and our, of course, huge sympathies to the people who love him and will miss him so dearly. Mm-hmm. I think all people will miss him, but he has made a mark unlike most people on this earth ever will, and we are very grateful for all that he stood for.
Yes, we are.
So I guess we'll end now by saying thank you for joining us for our positive conversations. I've been Donna.
And I'm David.
Stay positive.